All right, guys. So here's what we're doing today. We're visiting Gene and Mr. Lovelace, and they are working on their project, and they're just going to kind of take us through what they got going here.
Well, this is, I go back to the time before the muscle cars, and what we had is our cars were either flathead Fords or six-cylinder Chevrolets. And I was telling a friend of mine one day that I just remember how sweet a six-cylinder Chevrolet sounded with split exhaust running through a pair of glass-packed mufflers. And so he said, "Would you like to have one?" And I said, "No, I'm burned out. I've done all these other, what do you got?" And so he ended up giving me this 250 cubic inch six-cylinder Chevrolet. And so then I had the motor, but I had no home for it. So I asked another friend of mine, I said, "Well, what am I going to do? I got this motor and I've got no home." Well, this friend of mine we go back probably 50 years. He said, "For you, I've got a special deal. I've got two, not one, but I've got two 49 Chevy pickups, or Chevrolet, GMC, whatever. But they're all, it's in a pile of parts. You can drag all that pile of parts over and see if you can make one out of the two." So that's what we're doing here. We've collected a bunch of parts that we're trying to put together to come up with one vehicle. Now, the interesting thing about this, maybe, is this is basically a 49 Chevrolet. It's a 49 Chevrolet frame, but everything from this point forward is actually Camaro, which gives us modern suspension, modern brakes, and that sort of thing. So anyhow, we're trying to mate all of this together. We have the six-cylinder motor, but I happen to like the 5-speed transmission. So we took a 5-speed transmission out of a what's the little Chevy? Not Chevy 2. S10. Out of an S10 pickup, and we're mating that together with a Pontiac Firebird rear end. So we've got all these various parts and pieces, and as Gene says, we don't have a project, we kind of have a marriage problem here. But we're trying to bring all the parts together. What we're doing right now, we're in the process of mounting a air conditioning compressor. Of course, at the 49, they didn't have that. Together with the power steering pump, which we have to go with the Camaro steering, and try to mate all of this together. We've just about got it done, and this afternoon we're hoping to complete that portion of our project, and then we have the front end, which has all been reworked over here. It's been bits and pieces have been welded together to complete the front end, and our goal today is to try to get that front end set on the pickup. So after lunch and after a nap, that's what we intend to do today. See if we can, by the end of the day, have this put together with the front end on it.
Wow.
So
that's
what our ambition is for today.
I love it. That's a great day. So Jeff said last time, and Jeff's a smarter car guy than I am. I love them. I love enjoying them. But in your story, you said you started with the engine, which is kind of reverse as to what I think anybody trying to get into cars would think, is that they got to get the car first, then they go get the engine.
Right.
You started with the engine.
Yes.
That's cool.
And it was only because of just a very casual comment made right here in the shop to a friend that said, "Well, those old six-cylinder Chevys sure sounded sweet."
That was cool.
And he just happened to have one.
So what are you going to call this when it's done? Is it going to be a 1949 what?
Well, that's interesting too, because it's actually technically, we found out after I did some research, I found out that it's not even a Chevrolet, it's a GMC. But we kind of tweaked the paperwork a little bit, and so it's coming out as a 49 Chevrolet.
49 Chevy. Okay.
Right.
That is awesome.
If you remember, I have a commitment from you that when it comes time to build this bed, when we need some muscle.
Oh, heck yeah. I'm telling you, whatever you need, I'll help.
Okay.
I would love to learn, but this is, like I've said, a foreign language to me. I think it looks so cool, but I wouldn't know where to begin.
Well, It's just, you just take one step at a time, and one step leads to another.
So, okay, how about this? Like, let's say I'm brand new, somebody who's never hot rodded or done anything. What do you start with?
Well, in this particular case, of course, this was a complete wreck. I think I showed you the other day all the panels that we've welded in.
Mm-hmm.
I like to completely strip everything down, and then we sandblast. Get the frame sandblasted, body sandblasted, and of course, by that time, when you sandblast the body, then you really see what you're up against, because you can see all of the Bondo that's been put in and all of that kind of thing. And so, to get down to something that's clean, that's the starting point.
Okay.
Now, each one is different. Strangely enough, on the Model A over there, the starting point was the rear end, because I wanted the tires to set within the wheel wells where the original fenders were, but I knew that I was going to use a different rear end, which didn't set in the same location. So I had to build the frame, modify the frame, so that the rear wheels would set in the right spot within the wheel wells, and then build everything forward. It was kind of like when I built the Harley. It was the same kind of a thing. I built it so that I would fit on it. Well, okay, what is the non-negotiable? Well, the non-negotiable is the back fender, because the back fender, the back wheel is going to stay where the back wheel is going to stay. So I had to build a fender, and then build a seat to fit on the fender, and then build everything forward to that. So it's kind of depends upon what your project is, but you've got to have one non-negotiable starting point.
Okay. And so for this one, it was the engine.
Yeah, well, this one we wanted to put this engine in, and it didn't fit quite like the original 6-cylinder engine. So Gene and I figured out where it was going to sit in relation to the firewall, because we want the body to mount in the original location on this particular build. And so knowing that, then we had to position the engine in such a way that it would clear the firewall, keeping in mind when we get out here, we have to have room for a radiator, air conditioning compressor, a condenser, and a fan. So you've got all of that in your mind as you're assembling this thing.
Okay.
And you also have to have the tires, front axle in the right place on the fenders.
Yeah, well,
And that front end change made a difference.
Yes, one of the things we had to do very early, it looks a little bit crude, but we had to build this cross member, and this was a big deal because the original frame on the original Chevrolet did not have this kick up. It just came right straight out here. It was just a straight frame with none of this kick up here. Now, with that cut off, and if you look at this front end here, you see that kind of a U. That's called a core support. Everything on the front end has to mount to that core support. That core support locates where your fenders are, where your hood lands, where your radiator sets. That core support is very, very critical, and it mounts right here. And your whole front end sheet metal is in relation to that core support. But the Camaro front end had a totally different core support. So we spent a lot of time figuring out where we want that front end to land, because you realize there was nothing here. And so building that core support, or figuring out that core support, was a big deal.
Yeah.
And then we had to put the bumper bracket back in line with the old chassis. You can see how we Mickey Mouse that.
Yeah, this will all be covered up, but it'll
be covered up, but we had to come back here so the bumper can
brackets actually come off of right here.
But you can see.
But without that,
the front end ended right there.
Yeah.
We had to figure all that out. Took a while for that. Don't look at the wells too close.
Yeah, don't get too close to the wells. I think Gene welded those, didn't you?
Well, it depends on which one falls off. If it falls off, you did it.
Oh, okay.
That's awesome.
You're probably right.
Well, this is cool. How long have you guys been working on this one?
Oh, it's hard to say because
I've been here.
we might work. It's been a couple of years.
I
got it. I got started on this before when my wife was sick, was before she died, and I thought, okay, after she's gone, that'll kind of give me something to get to do, and then of course Gene had a similar experience.
I'm about here about a year and a half for me.
Yeah.
Wow.
But as you can see, we don't work very hard.
You know what?
No, when I was doing these, I'd come out when I had time, like in the summer or whatever. I mean, it was like a full day's job.
Yeah.
But this one, we're just having fun with it. And if we live long enough, we'll eventually see it run, I hope. But we're just kind of playing this one by ear. But it's fun.
It is cool. So, did you chop this at all?
No, this one is going to be completely stock.
Okay.
Stock appearing. As far as the sheet metal is concerned, we're not changing anything. Well, in fact, actually, the white one it's all stock too. Now this one is the one that's been modified.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as the appearance is concerned.
That's awesome.
My son's friends would take a week off work to help because this used to all be foreign, so everything was a mess. Everything, the yard had to be cleaned up, shop had to be cleaned up, and everything. And so a lot of his buddies would take time off of work to come and help get these barbecues going. Well, for some reason, and my son's about your size, and he's about the smallest one of his friends. I mean, he's got friends that are just giants. But anyhow, what was really interesting to me was we would be out working on something, and we got to move this piece of equipment, and it's pretty heavy. And I bend down to pick it up, and the first thing I know, here's a guy just
moving out
of the way, you know. And what was so neat about it? Well, two, the fact that they would do it because these barbecues have been very much a community effort. But I remember doing that to my father-in-law. You know, we'd be out working on something, and I just kind of
move them out.
Yeah. And now it's kind of come full circle.
Wow.
And it's really, really neat. I may have a little difference here. He likes the red wheels.
Yeah.
I'm visualizing this thing, and I thought all along that I would do, black wheels. We got the bumper will be black. We've got a brand new grill, and it's black, so not much chrome trim on it. But I don't know. He may win out on that on that wheel deal. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, those wheels are really sharp.
Yeah, I like them. I really do.
Any gray or green or something that you go with, they'll
You think it'll go okay with that with the little chrome hubcaps?
Yeah. You're the experts.
Look at your Model A. That looks good.
Well,
Got a point.
I don't know. You think? Yeah. Well, it was ready to go to the scrapyard, and you kind of feel a little bit of a, okay, hey, we can resurrect this one. We can bring this one back.
Yeah.
And you kind of get a little bit of a feeling of accomplishment doing that. And see, that's why our stuff isn't the high dollar stuff. It's not the fancy stuff, because what we start with, if you want a really nice finished car, you start with something that's pretty good. Mm-hmm. When you start piecing stuff together, then that's a whole different dynamic.
Even like the clutch and the plumbing for the hydraulic clutch is not. Didn't come out with that.
It didn't have hydraulic clutch, no.
And the brake system was not like that at all. And you do have disc brakes now. And we just recently hooked up the gas pedal inside.
Which doesn't seem like a big deal. They're trying to figure out how to mount it. See,
we
have to cut a lot of the floor out because this transmission doesn't fit. It fits differently, and so the original hump and tunnel and so forth is all cut out. We'll have to build a new tunnel. Well,
the tunnel is right there where the originally it had an accelerator pedal came off the floor right here. Well, obviously that wasn't going to work, so we had to do this. But then we had to mount this whole thing on a piece of sheet metal that's got an angle. So it's one of those things that doesn't look like a big deal, but trying to figure it out and get it operational.
Yeah.
It takes time.
Yeah.
And that's, probably none of it is really a big deal, but even like the steering, see, we had this is a GM column, and then of course we had to add, make our own steering system here. So now this is going to be my first experience with power steering. We're kind of interested to see how that's going to turn out.
This is going to be quite the runner.
Now that we've got that belt loose, let's put the socket on the drill.
Yes,
and turn that.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. Fancy exhaust on here that would a header, but with all of this, there's no room. Mm-hmm. So what we're going to do? Have you ever gone around the circle there, Chester? You see that place that's no muff too tough?
Yeah, I've seen it.
That guy is good.
Is he?
A little eccentric, but he's a master. And he's going to split this. This is, of course, this is the exhaust manifold here. Don't get confused with the intake manifold. And it comes out here. He's going to split this exhaust manifold for me, so that we'll have one port coming off of here and one port coming down here. We won't use this one right here. And he's like the rest of us, getting up there in years, and so we're looking at his life expectancy. It's kind of funny when you get to this point in life, you look at everybody in terms of life expectancy.
What age does that start at?
I don't know. When do you start doing that, Jane?
When did you start?
When do you start looking at life
So
expectancy?
you get 80.
Is it 80? Well, I'm not 80 yet.
You're close.
Yeah.
Close enough.
It's really, really neat.
Well, if later after lunch, if you guys are going to do whatever, mount anything, and then if you need help lifting that, you just call me. I'm not far.
Appreciate that.
Of course.